Today we're doing Module 5, Lesson 18. The objective is to compare fractions and whole numbers on the number line by reasoning about their distance from zero. The materials needed for today are your online whiteboard or your whiteboard dry erase marker and dry eraser. You may also want your fraction strips to help you reference. The teaching style we're going to follow is where I do it, we do it together, and then you do it on your own. So first up, we have two number lines, and it's asking which fraction is less. And you can see there's a point on each fraction. So we're comparing 5/8 to 7/8. We did something similar before. So I'm just going to show you what a picture model would look like for these, okay? So say I'm comparing these two shapes. Both of them are broken into 8 pieces. The first one has 5 pieces shaded. The next one has 7 pieces shaded. I'm trying to figure out which fraction is less. So which one has less of the shape shaded? Well, we can see that this one has less shaded because there's more open white squares. This one has 3 pieces not shaded. This one only has 1. So this one is less. Now, when you look at the number line, the smaller fraction will be closer to 0. So you can see that 5/8, when it's shaded, covers less space, and it also is closer to the 0 on the number line. So because it's closer to 0, we know that this one is less. Okay? Because this one is farther away from 0, we know that it is more. So which fraction is less? 5/8 is less than 7/8. Let's go ahead and have you do one with me. I don't need you to draw the number lines because that's going to take us a bit of time. We're just going to look, we're comparing 2/6 and 5/6. Now remember, we figured out if we're trying to figure out which one is less, less means it's closer to the 0, okay? So on your whiteboards, I want you to figure out which fraction is less or which fraction is closer to 0. Go ahead and write the fraction that is less on your whiteboard. And I'll have you check your answer with mine in just a moment. Okay, so you should have wrote the fraction 2/6 because 2/6 is closer to 0. It only takes 2 hops to get to it, whereas with 5/6 it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hops. Okay. All right, go ahead and erase your whiteboard. Now we're going to look at a different example. Now we're comparing 5/8 to 5/6. Okay, the numerator is 5 for both of them. The denominator is different now. So remember we talked before that the bigger the denominator, the smaller the pieces. So you can see that because 8 is a bigger denominator than 6, the 8th number line is broken into more pieces, which means each of those pieces is smaller. Okay, so how does that compare 5/8 with 5/6? Well, first let's notice that our question is now asking which fraction is greater. So we know the fraction closest to 0 is less. To find the fraction that is greater, we want the fraction that is farther away from 0, because that means that it is bigger. So which fraction is bigger? Well, if we look, 5/6 is farther away from 0 than 5/8. 5/8 only comes to about here on the sixth number line. So 5/6 is greater than 5/8. So even though we have 5 pieces of each of them, the 6 pieces are bigger than the 8 pieces. So 5/6 will be farther away from 0 than 5/8. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at another example. I'm going to have you do this one with me, so you don't need to draw the number line. The question is the same: which fraction is greater? So once again, we're looking for the fraction that is bigger or the one that's farther away from 0. You can see we're looking at 1/6 and 1/3. The numerator, or the top number, is the same in both of them, but the bottom number is different. Go ahead and write on your whiteboard which fraction is greater or bigger, and then I'll have you check your work with mine. Okay, so which fraction is greater, or which one's farther away from 0? You should have wrote 1/3. The denominator is smaller, which means the pieces are bigger, okay? So 6 is bigger than 3, which means we have to break it into more pieces, which means each piece is smaller. So even though we have one piece of each number line, the thirds piece is bigger, so it will be farther away from 0. Okay, let's take a look at what your homework is going to be today. IXL Skill X2, compare fractions using number lines. So, same thing that we were doing. What you need to pay attention to is whether it's asking, is the fraction greater than or less than, okay? If it's greater, remember that means it's farther away from 0. If it's less, then it is closer to 0. So in this example, 1/4 would be farther away from 0, so that is the one that you would pick on IXL. Go ahead and begin.